the highly anticipated sequel to the 2003 Game of the Year, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords.
What's good, y'all? Welcome to another video. The scene we got for you today is called The Master. This scene is actually a very nostalgic scene for me and comes from the game Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords, that came out back in 2004. Now, back when, in that kind of, time frame when I was about 12, 13 years old, Knights of the Old Republic 1, also known as KotOR, came out in 2003, and that for me was such an impactful game. It was made by BioWare. It was a fantastic RPG set in the Star Wars universe, and it really showed me the potential of storytelling in video games. Now, when I was waiting for KotOR 2 to come out, which was only about a year and a half later, July 2003 to December 2004, I probably waited 7 months, maybe a little more from announcement to release, but it felt like years. I was just so excited to jump back into this world, to jump back into the style of storytelling, especially again in the Star Wars universe. KotOR 2 really does a great job of dissembling everything that we know that is classic about Star Wars. There's usually not a lot of room for the gray in classic Star Wars storytelling. It's usually light versus dark. This game is all about the gray. It's all about the stuff that happens in between. And it asks you actual questions about morality. It asks you questions about what's right and what's wrong. What does it mean to be a Jedi? What does it mean to be a Sith? What does it mean just to be a human in this galaxy and trying to make the right decisions and to do the right thing? And is the right thing even the right thing to do?
Even an act of kindness may have more severe repercussions than you know or can see. By giving him something he has not earned, perhaps all you have helped him become is a target, and perhaps in the end, all you have wrought is more pain.
This whole perspective is summed up by one character in the game called Kreia. She is absolutely fantastic. She was so unique. She was soft-spoken, yet so cold, and her words so sharp.
So you will do nothing? Apathy is death, worse than death, because at least a rotting corpse feeds the beasts and insects.
She would never get incredibly mad or have these expressions of intense passion, but would be just so steady and so calm, but yet her words hit so hard. And it was through this character that the game's narrative always asked those questions really about morality and right and wrong. This was a character that lived in the gray. So when I found this scene, I absolutely knew I had to do it. Because I love the character so much, my first instinct was to come in and just do kind of a Kreia impression for the scene and just really, put myself in the video game, the nostalgia, the things that I remember. You, who have forever seen the galaxy through the Force, see it through the eyes of the exile. But then as I was working the script and working the character, I was like, dude, listen, make different choices. Do what you've been doing this whole time. Create something new. See what you can make out of this character. And that right there was the most challenging part of this whole process, especially with the scene. How do I take a character that I know so well? I can hear her voice in my head. How do I take this character and then make different choices and create something new? The first thing I did with the character was switch it from female to male. I knew that would immediately set me on a completely different path. I wanted to keep that soft-spokenness that Kreia also had, but bring it in and interpret it in a different way in this character. But I still wanted those words to be sharp and those words to be bitter. Did you not hear its call on Dantooine? Vrook. On its scarred surface and in the minds of the settlers. I also want to bring different emotions into this character. Kreia is, again, very, very steady. I want to have my character to still remain steady for the most part, but have these moments of emotion. One is just that bitterness and disdain for these Jedi Masters. You old fools. The second was joy. That he's enjoying what he's doing. There's a sense of pleasure there. And that was not something that was present in Kreia's performance and that version of the character, but I wanted it to be part of this version. As you would pass judgment on her, I have come to pass judgment on you all. Along with this absolute disdain for the Jedi, along with this absolute joy in reveling in their failures, I also wanted him to also have a sense of love to him. For the exile, this character has been with the exile through this whole journey, teaching them, guiding them, trying to help them see and understand a broader view of the Force. And even though he has all these kind of dark and negative traits, I still want him to have love in his core, that he's still capable of love, he's capable of caring, he's capable of softness, not creepy softness from a lack of boundaries, but that intimacy, that softness that comes from love, that softness that comes from caring. How one could turn away from such power, give up the Force, and still live. Ultimately, in the end, for me and my experience with the scene, it turned out way better than it had any right to be. My original perspective coming in and approach to it would have been nowhere near as interesting, at least to me as an actor, than the choices that I made and the differences that I made to create this different version of the character. But yeah, with the same sort of themes and a lot of the same ideas from the story that the original Kreia is a part of. This kind of mix of gray. There's bitterness, there's disdain, there's hate, there's joy and failure, but then there's also that part that is love. So here it is, The Master, from Knights of the Old Republic to the Sith Lords. I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed making it. You old fools. As you would pass judgment on her, I have come to pass judgment on you all. Do you wish to feel the teachings born of the Mandalorian Wars, of all tragedies that scream across the galaxy? Let me show you. You, who have forever seen the galaxy through the Force, see it through the eyes of the exile. How could you ever hope to know the threat you face? You have never walked in the dark places of the galaxy, faced war and death on such a scale. If you had traveled far enough, rather than waiting for the echo to reach you, perhaps you would have seen it for what it was. Did you not hear its call on Tatooine? Rook, on its scarred surface and in the minds of the settlers. I've enjoyed your corruption of my other students. You shall not have this one. And you, KotOR, so close to the Call of Duxon, tell me, did you not feel what poured from the moon, what had taken place there? Of course not. And Zekael, to hide upon Ashadar, yet blind yourself to all that happens there, so close to understanding the Force, so close to giving it up. There is a place in the galaxy where the dark side of the Force runs strong. It is something of the Sith, but it was fueled by war. It corrupts all that walks on its surface, drowns them in the power of the dark side. It corrupts all life, and it feeds on death. Revan knew the power of such places, and the power of making them. They can be used to break the will of others, of Jedi, promising them power and turning them to the dark side. Did you never wonder how Revan corrupted so many of the Jedi, so much of the Republic, so quickly? The Mandalorian Wars were a series of massacres that masked another war, a war of conversion, culminating in a final atrocity that no Jedi could walk away from. save one. And this is what I sought to understand. How one could turn away from such power, give up the Force, and still live. But I see what happened now. It is because you were afraid. This book is completely misleading. The entire plot revolves around finding baby's belly button. The title makes this much clearer from the beginning. However, there is no mystery. There is no twist. Baby's belly button is right where it's supposed to be, on baby's stomach.